In this video, I am going to show you how to edit your photos the right way. So I'm not going to really go over how to import your pictures, but because there's an earlier video for that, so that should be pretty easy and straightforward. But once you do have your photos, basically what you can do is the first thing. So I'm going to go up here to develop this module, and we've spoken about this a little bit before, but the area that I want to really kind of look at today is this tone area and then this presence area, okay? So under tone, and then again, it depends on the photo that you're looking at, but I do want you to bring your attention up here. This is called a histogram. And basically what it's showing you the distribution of blacks, your shadows, your midtones, all the way to your highlights. So you can kind of see it looks a little bit like a mountain range, and in this one I can see right here that it has like a bit of a spike over in the highlights in the white areas. That means that the photo is just a little bit on the brighter side and it's lacking any true blacks, okay? So because of that, I may want to come down here, and the first thing I'll probably do is drop that exposure just a little bit because it's just a little bit blown out, okay? So by bringing down this exposure, the first thing I see is now suddenly I have some information and detail in the sky. Okay, so that's a good thing. The next thing I'm going to do is increase the contrast right here, okay, or decrease it. So when you decrease the contrast, what it does, it almost grays out the image, and it makes it so the whites and the darks are kind of spread out a little more. Whereas if I were to increase it, notice that it kind of creates this interesting valley, but it peaks the blacks and it peaks the whites over here, okay, if I'm looking at that histogram again. So you really need to look at your image the entire time you're editing and just really kind of determine what the look you're going for, okay? In addition to that, you have your highlights, which you can intensify or darken. You have your shadows that you can darken or brighten. You have your whites that you can brighten or darken, and then you have your blacks that you can darken or brighten, okay? So between all of these sliders, you just kind of have to go in here, and as far as there being a magic formula, there really isn't, because it does depend largely on where the photo starts, okay? So I like to come in here and I'm going to kind of bring in the shadows and drop them down just a tiny bit, hopefully without losing too much detail. Actually, just noticing that and seeing right in the middle of that driftwood piece, that's getting too dark. So I'm actually going to bring that up a little bit. And let's see, in the white area. I don't tend to like to bring the whites down too much because it kind of looks like it's graying out the image. So I'm bringing those up a bit too. And then the blacks just down a tiny bit. Okay. So now that I have that, just something that just to pay attention to, because when you're editing, you sometimes stop seeing what you're doing and you don't remember what it looked like before. So there's a key on your keyboard. If you're looking at the kind of the top letter row of keys, to the right of your letter P, you have these bracket keys, and then to the right of this, you have a slash, right? So if I click on that, you'll see the before, and you'll know it's the before photo because down here at the very, very bottom, it'll say it's before. And then if I press it again, it'll go back to the after. Okay, so before and after. So you can see if you've actually made any kind of improvements. You could also click on this right here. What this will do is it'll put like a side-by-side view so you can actually see, what the before and after looks like. You can also click here. Maybe you would rather have it, a little bit more in this direction. Okay, something like that. So again, you can look at it how you prefer. Personally, I kind of prefer this look right here, but again, that's up to you. So I am just going to, I'm pressing that backslash button to basically get back to the finished view. Okay, so we've talked about fixing the tone, the overall tone. Now I'm going to go down to presence, and in this image, I'm going to specifically look at vibrance and saturation. Okay, oh, and also clarity. So clarity does this. If I were to take it down all the way to the left, it kind of creates this really dreamy, painterly look. Now this works for some photos. I honestly don't think it works for this one all that well. If I go the other way, and obviously I'm really intensifying this, but this gives it kind of like a gritty edginess to it. Again, I don't think it really works for this photo, but maybe just like a little bit of it, right? So if that was the original, maybe just a tiny bit. So I went to like plus 32. Now what Vibrance does is it takes those kind of muted soft colors and it'll intensify them, or it'll take them all the way down without necessarily stripping it completely of color. Okay, so if I were to go in here and just kind of bring it up just a tiny bit, might be okay. Now saturation really will intensify the color. So it can actually go all the way down to complete black and white, or it can be all the way up to something kind of ridiculous. Okay. Personally, I don't use a lot of saturation unless, you know, very specific photos call for it. I tend to get what I need out of Vibrance. But in these sliders, this is how you're going to start developing, you know, what works for you and what you want your photos to look like. Okay, so that's the first image, and you know, again, if you needed to adjust for white balance, that was demonstrated in an earlier video. But for this one, I would say, and for most photos, you'll get what you need out of tone and presence. Okay, and then once you're ready to export, all I'm going to do is click back here on library, and then it'll take me right here, so I can click on export. It'll bring me to this window. This area is really important, knowing where it's going to go. So mine's going to go to my desktop, and then it's going to be in a folder called Untitled Export. I can change that to whatever I want, okay? And it'll create a folder for it. And then I would just click export, and it'll be there for me when I'm ready. Okay? So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Let me know if you have any questions. These steps should be done on every photo that you turn in to me.